These two things which Swami Vivekananda, also our teacher, Professor Shastri, used to say, one is called as the livelihood and the other is life. If we take to spirituality, we should not become parasite in the society. It is in the form of spiritual growth and development. And for that, from whichever direction that we get the knowledge, we take it and go ahead, unbiased, but at the same time, not blind, but with eyes open. Shrotriyam Brahmanishtam. Who has to have the knowledge, but at the same time, he has to have that experience. If I say something, I should have had that experience of it. So therefore, the foremost thing that in this particular path of yoga is what is it for me and how I develop. And another thing is that just because that yoga is my passion, I have taken it because that it is my life, not livelihood. We should not be egoistic about this particular knowledge. The more that we learn in this path, the more that humble that we become. I have an experience, but at the same time, it is the same thing which is passed on by generations after generations.
Namaste to all the yoga sadhakas. Welcome to yet another episode of Yogānubhava series, The Reflections of a Yogi. For today's episode, we have N.V. Raghuram sir with us. Namaste sir, thank you so much for joining us. So before we go to him and learn from his experience, I'll take a brief moment to introduce him to all of you today. N.V. Raghuram is a founding chairman and a spiritual guide of Yoga Bharati, which is a dedicated transferring down the traditional wisdom of yoga spirituality to the modern minds through its academic programs and other yoga-based activities. Presently, Raghuram is appointed as a distinguished professor in SVYASA University. His interest in spirituality, Indian philosophy, and yoga has been from childhood. He holds MACT National Institute of Technology with a very high regards both for giving him engineering knowledge and also gave him an opportunity to involve in spiritual activities in late 60s. Since 1989 till 2005, he was taking care of international activities of Vivekananda Yoga Research Foundation. Professor N.V. Raghuram has been traveling all around the globe. He has traveled to more than 60 countries so far, and his unique ability to simplify the high philosophical concepts into the most practical approach makes him a favorite speaker in many forums. His talks are very unique and revolutionary. As a visionary leader and a teacher, he has been guiding many institutions across the globe with his profound wisdom. And he is involved with several international yoga research projects and has published research papers in international journals, conferences, and publications. And he has many, many awards, which we'll be putting in detail in the description of this video. So with this, I welcome again to N.V. Raghuram sir for joining us today. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. So with this, I just want to begin by asking you, sir. So you have decades of experience. You have traveled across the country. I'm sure you would have gained a lot of experience in the field of yoga as well. So if I ask you to share those 2-3 points, like a wisdom that you want to share with the young generation. So what are those 2-3 key learnings, sir?
I would begin with the first thing, that is chronologically when we go. In the beginning was my interest in spirituality. That has really taken me into the journey of this. And I was looking for what is that spirituality, what is meant by that, how to become like earlier that we have these rishis, etc. and all that. So this was my interest in that. And then for that, it took me to Himalayas and all that. And then in the process that I went to Maulana Azad College, that is in Bhopal, because that way I will be closer to Himalayas. I'm not going all the way from south. So that was easy for me. And then that is where my college really helped me to have on one side my engineering complete, on the other side my pursuit for the spirituality, that I could journey in that. So my point generally for the people who are in this particular path, we should not confuse ourselves with these two things which Swami Vivekananda also made a very good point, and our teacher, Professor Shastri, also always used to say that these are the two aspects. One is called as the livelihood and the other is life. And Shastriji always used to say that if we take to spirituality, we should not become parasite in the society. or we have to depend on somebody else for our maintenance and living and all that. Therefore, that I said that I will finish my engineering, I'll work as an engineer for some time, make my requirements minimum, so that what happens is that I don't have to depend on anybody or anything. I don't even have to depend on the knowledge of spirituality and yoga and Vedanta for the sake of my livelihood. I do not look for that. Then what happens is that whatever that I can give freely without any reservations. This is one aspect. Second aspect with our Shastriji, that is our guide, senior. He beautifully presented is that whatever that yoga we call it is nothing but a spiritual journey only. We unfortunately by that time when we were there, now it is really. What happened was that the spiritual knowledge, that Upanishads and Bhagavad Gita and all, different, and yoga is different. This is how that was presented. So he is one person who gave both these things are together, and then we have to look at both of them with the same kind of a perception. This is what we need to do. And third important aspect is that we have to be very clear that my journey is in the form of spiritual growth and development. And for that, from whichever direction that we get the knowledge, we take it and go ahead, unbiased, but at the same time, not blind, but with eyes open. So therefore, I could really reach many spiritual masters and yoga teachers, everybody I could reach them, and then got something or the other from them, and make us my own experience. Ultimately, what has to happen in the spiritual journey is that, it's always said in the Vedas that Shrotriyam Brahmanishtam. That means to say somebody who has to have the knowledge, but at the same time, he has to have that experience. If I say something, I should have had that experience of it. So therefore, the foremost thing that in this particular path of yoga is what is it for me and how I developed. This is very important. And another thing is that just because that yoga is my passion, I have taken it because that it is my life, not livelihood. Therefore, we should, one thing which we should be very careful about is we should not be egoistic about this particular knowledge or this particular path. So the more that we learn in this path, the more that humble that we become. Only when you are in state of humility, humbleness, then only that you will connect with the people. And the people need this wisdom. And in my travel of all these 60-odd countries I went around, I found is that the political systems may be different and geographical systems and the cultures may be different, but mankind is the same. You approach mankind as a man, then you see that a heart-to-heart connection we can develop. And I could see that when we dissolve this ego and when we connect with the people, then you see that how much that you're able to cater to their needs by your being present. That's all. You don't really have to do much of these things. That is what is the idea. And one thing is that, what our sages have given, right from since the Sanatana Dharma, it has given so many things that are there, and what we know is so very little. So therefore, what we are carrying is the message that is given by these people onwards. It is not that I am doing something. In fact, I always quote from Ishavasya Upanishad, such an extraordinary, wonderful concept the Rishi gives in Ishavasya Upanishad, where he says that Vidya in 9th, 10th, 11th sutras of Ishavasya Upanishad, while giving that extraordinary, wonderful wisdom, Rishi says, Iti Shushruma Purvesham Yenastad Vichachakshire. He says, this is how earlier people who have Vichachakshire, that means who are really very good in discrimination and experience, they have given that. Rishi, Ishavasya Upanishad is first of the Upanishads. That means it's almost like 7,000 year old. And Rishi at that time says that I'm not giving this knowledge. My earlier people have given this knowledge. What an extraordinary, wonderful humility that he had, the Rishi. If I have to learn anything from that Rishi, this humility I have to learn. So therefore, that we should take away from that idea that it is my idea I am giving to come out of it, saying that yes, I have an experience, but at the same time, it is the same thing which is passed on by generations after generations. So we are not giving anything on our own. And actually, in the field of yoga spirituality, we can't create anything because so much of ideas are given by the people earlier. But there is one more thing that is there. Today, spirituality as itself does not ring in the ears of the people. But yoga is something which people really understand. And second thing is applications of yoga, people are easy, ready to get it. That much that we can see that. Like for example, health issue or the memory, education, mind, these are the things which people can easily get attracted to. So therefore, it is easy to give yoga in the name of either therapy or mind management or the material management. That's why when we give it, that is where we can approach. And there is nothing wrong in approaching that way, because basically what happens is that I always say that yoga is like a pyramid, and the pyramid has to have a large base. And further, it goes on going up, tapering to smaller and smaller base. So first level people who come to yoga, either for the sake of therapy or for the sake of any of these benefits and all that, they are at the large base. So we create a huge large base. Out of that large base, just a few people, they come forward to say further deeper knowledge, further deeper knowledge. But while giving the base knowledge that we are giving, we always have to keep in mind and also make an expression, a clear expression of it, saying that all this knowledge is for the spiritual growth of a person. It is not for the sake of material development and growth, but it is for the spiritual development of a person that we take it. Otherwise, what happens is that we have such people in our Puranas, our history, where people like Ravana, he was also a great yogi. And people like Kamsa, he was also a great and then we have such people meditated and got into powers and all those things. But what happened to them? Why did they get lost? Because basically that if we are giving yoga, not with an idea of that it's the spiritual growth, spiritual development, we don't give it, then this damage can occur. If somebody has taken yoga seriously, somebody has taken the path of meditation seriously, and then in the path, that is goal, if it is getting drifted, diverted, then there is a problem in that. So that's what we need to really avoid in that. It's as much as the knowledge about the world outside. Like for example, people who have the knowledge of physics or chemistry, and then today computer sciences, this and that. It is just not the knowledge that's important, but what we use, what that knowledge that we use for. Like for example, the whole lot of knowledge of the biological cells, this, that, and all that they had. But what was the use of it? They used it for developing corona. So we have to be very careful to see that yoga cannot become a tool for somebody's wrong hands. So that we need to ensure as the idea of yoga teachers and yoga practitioners, that we need to take it in mind, keep it in mind. Yes. And another thing is that always that a person that you give yoga who is receiving, one thing is that he sees what is there outside, but at the same time, he also feels how much of you as a yogi within. That is something which is very important. And that cannot be communicated, but that can be made felt. So that's why you should tread the path of yoga yourself.
Yes. Yeah. Very, very well said. So a lot of nice, interesting points, differentiate between life and livelihood, and make sure that you practice, learn from all the people, but make your own experience and teach that experience.
Right.
So very well said, sir, because these are the essential things that we need, particularly for all the teachers who are teaching now. They should first get into the practice, get into the experience mode, only then they should start teaching, and that can be felt. And that's right. So Well said, sir. So that's great, sir. Thank you so much for sharing this valuable wisdom with us today. So thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.